Anxiety in autistic adults can be spotted before the anxiety leads to a meltdown or a shutdown if you know what to look for. Today, I'm going to share with you 8 signs of anxiety in autistic adults. Let's get started. Hey, Define Yourselfers, I am Chris Mitchell from theconfidentautistic.com. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I truly appreciate you taking the time to check out this video. I am an autistic adult, late diagnosed, an advocate for autistic adults, and a digital creator empowering other autistic adults and the entire world to embrace autism confidently. Now, if this resonates with you, please consider supporting our channel. You can show your support by liking and sharing this video. And the best way you can show your support is by subscribing to this channel. And when you do subscribe, do not forget to ring the bell to be notified of new videos and when I go live. There are several warning signs that you as an autistic adult are experiencing anxiety, or warning signs that others may observe about a person who's on the spectrum, that they're experiencing anxiety. So let's take a look at 8 of them right now. The first is appearing frightened or apprehensive. Now, this is more of a sign that an outsider, someone outside your own body, an observer would notice in you. But many of us can start feeling frightened or apprehensive inside ourselves before we start showing it externally. And if you feel that coming on, you know you're entering or you are experiencing anxiety. Being unwilling to leave. Sometimes our anxiety can cause us to become frozen where we are. I was going to say paralyzed, but I know that there's a lot of people in the disabled community who would say that's ableism by using the word paralyzed that way. So I'm just going to say frozen and fearful of doing anything. So commonly, let's say you have an anxiety of how crowded is the bus going to be today? I'm going to be taking to work or the subway or whatever, right? You may be so anxious about that, you will be unwilling to leave your own house. And if you're unwilling to leave something because of a fear or a challenge that you perceive that could be uncomfortable, that's a sign that you are entering or maybe experiencing anxiety. Refusing to go into certain places or rooms. Now, in 2002, right before my ascending to descending aortic bypass, I was very anxious. I mean, I was showing it. One of the way I showed it was I was becoming nonverbal. I was starting to shut down, and we got me to the hospital. Well, first of all, I did not want to leave the house. I was unwilling to leave, but my at that time fiance, now wife, convinced me I got to go. So we did get me in the car, got me there. I was real quiet on the way there. We got me checked in, went upstairs to the pre-op area, and I was so anxious. I refused to go into the waiting room, and I stood in the hallway, and it took my fiance and my pastor to talk to me to try to get me to go in. And finally, we got me in there, but I was scared to death to even go into the pre-op room, which could have been a foreshadowing of what would happen during the surgery. I survived an ischemic stroke to my spinal cord and lost the ability to run, walk, or even stand. Sweating or shaking is another sign that you are experiencing anxiety or about to become anxious. Now, sweating is an external one, but you can also feel it inside. And shaking, there are times I felt myself shaking inside, like I'm shivering. You know, that kind of shaking when I'm in a room that's 80 degrees or, outside 80 degrees, a nice warm environment. And that's a sign of anxiety. And in my case, what after my surgery that robbed me of my ability to run, walk, even stand, where I survived an incomplete spinal cord injury, I was in a rehab hospital for a while. and it was getting close to time to go home. And I had several of these. I was a little bit apprehensive about leaving. Yeah, I was a little apprehensive about leaving. Uh, I was almost, but I knew I needed to. But not only was I sweating and shaking, I was stuttering, and I don't normally stutter. But for me, that's a sign that I'm going through anxiety when I start to stammer and stutter a lot. Another sign that you are experiencing or about to experience anxiety is placing your hands over your ears or over your eyes. And that because you're like, I'm getting too, I think this is more common when we're having sensory overload and you're saying, I'm getting too much noise, too much light. I can't handle this. And you want to, I mean, I guess you could say catatonic and curl up in the fetal position and, to shut down because you're having too much stimuli and that's causing you anxiety. Another sign that you or somebody who is on the spectrum is having a lot of anxiety is that they have more emotional meltdowns than normal. Because that's the way that many of us express that we're anxious is by having a meltdown or a shutdown. And if they increase in frequency, you may be having anxiety and you may need to identify what's causing you anxiousness and address the problem, not just the symptom. Another symptom or sign that you may be experiencing a high amount of anxiety is aggressive or self-abusive behavior. And you want to be very careful with these because self-abusive behavior, especially if it's self-harm, could wind you up in a psychiatric hospital, which if you're having self-harm, you really may need that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. And aggressive behavior could, if you're not careful and you become physically aggressive to somebody, you may be looking at charges of assault and wind up in jail, which is going to be even more anxiety for you because those places are loud, noisy, and can be frightening. I don't know from personal experience, but from watching shows like 60 Days in jail, I know it's not a place I want to be. And I don't think it's a place most autistic people would like to be. And the number 8, I feel like I'm doing a countdown, case to case countdown. But the number 8 sign that an autistic person like yourself is experiencing anxiety is appearing unusually jumpy. And I think that's common not only for autistics, but allistics. And some of these can be common in our allistic peers too. But if we get more jumpy and irritable and reacting like that, it can be a sign that you are anxious. Now, at times, if I'm laser focused into something or really deep into my special interest, and my wife says, "Hey, Chris, what?" I jump and I yell, "What?" because it startled me. So sometimes that can be just being startled out of what you're deeply zoned into. But other times, when you're appearing unusually jumpy, that can be a sign that you are experiencing anxiety. Now it is your turn. Share in the comments or in the conversation in our Facebook group, Autistic Adults Embracing Autism. What items from this list resonated with you? Which ones do you see in yourself when you're about to or experiencing anxiety? What warning signs that you're anxious that I did not mention in this list? Please comment on the video or share them in the discussion group. I might not respond to every comment, but I do read each and every one. So please share them and let me know what resonated with you and what you go through. And by you sharing, other people in our community can read that and say, yeah, I can identify that. And you will be helping somebody else embrace their autism with confidence. So until next time, this is Chris Mitchell, the Confident Autistic, reminding you that now is the time for you to embrace autism confidently. Join me live Thursday nights for the Confident Autistic Live, where I answer your questions, we discuss this week's videos, offer support, and more. The fun starts Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time in the US of A. Be sure to click the bell when you subscribe to the channel to be notified when the party begins.